Hello everyone. I'm just sitting out here in the garden enjoying this beautiful weather today. Just wanted to do a little talk about dealing with a death in the family or someone you know really well. Bereavement is not something we think about on just a normal day-to-day level. It's one of those things that we're afraid to discuss, I think. We're so afraid of the end of something, and we see it as being very final, I think. I think this is really what I want to talk about, is the idea that that is the end. It's completely cut off. You're never going to see that person again. Basically it's finished, and it feels like a loss. It feels like you can't be all that you are, because that person who is very much part of your life, or not necessarily in my case, I think sometimes it's someone who maybe is a family member, but maybe you, for whatever reason, you didn't really connect with them, but you still feel that person was so much part of your life and so much part of you, especially when it's a parent or a sibling, I think. Is it possible to grow and extend with the idea that it's not actually the end? It's not just because the body is not there, does that mean that that person has gone? I'm channeling spirits, and in the last 2 years I've channeled many different spirits. It's like you hear a voice in your head. It sounds really dodgy. It sounds like I've got psychological problems or something, but it's not. It's not that energy. It's not a kind of depressing energy. It's not a sad energy. It's not something that comes from feeling like you're despairing or going mad. It's something that comes from a completely different feeling, something that maybe you've never experienced before in your life. I know I hadn't, and when it started happening to me, I didn't know what it was. All sorts of things used to happen to me, and still do, but now I'm okay with it. Now I'm used to it. Electrical devices would kind of malfunction and do all kinds of things, like supposing, for example, when I'm on the computer, it would just, on one word, it would stick on one word and just go all the way down on one word when I'm not even touching it, I'm not even doing anything. That's one example. Another example is when I walk into a room, all the lights flash. Another example would be like flashes of lightning, light coming from nowhere seemingly, just flashing around me. And one major experience that I had that changed me forever, I think, in terms of my thinking, like what I thought is real and what is not real. What I'm seeing with my eyes is just one aspect of everything. It's like looking through the lens of a camera. You only see one focal point. You're not seeing everything. You're not seeing the whole picture. This was something that I realised after I saw orbs of light, loads and loads and loads of them, all floating around me, and it just happened one day. It just came all of a sudden, just loads of them, all floating around me, and they look kind of like mini tiny bubbles of light, different colours. Some of it admittedly looked like dust, so for a couple of days I took all my clothes off. I shook my clothes out to see if it was dust or not, and I kind of did sort of what I thought were tests. And I just came to the conclusion that something has happened to me. I've changed in some way, and the actual change felt really good. It felt like I'd let go of the ideas of this world, and I'd started to really have some kind of realistic connection with God that I really believed in. Because before that time, I always thought there was something, but I kind of never wholeheartedly let myself believe, because there was always stuff in the Bible or stuff that in religion that I just kind of thought, nah, it's not really, I just can't believe that. It's just too far-fetched for me. I've got a logical mind. I need to kind of see something in a pattern, how it works from start to finish. And the stories in the Bible always seem so far-fetched and so. But I realised that the stories in the Bible, of course, are metaphorical, and the stories in the Bible are channeled stories. So basically, the people that wrote the Bible are the same as me. They're prophets and people who are seeing more than what you just see with your physical eyes. It's hard to accept when it first starts happening, but I think this has helped me to deal with the death of my father recently. So it's kind of a talk about that, really, because it is hard to deal with death. But if we have a more rounded picture of the stuff that's going on around us, instead of just what we're seeing with our eyes, we can use our senses. I mean, it's not a sensory thing, it's something that happens, how it feels inside you. So it's something that happens to your body on the inside. And when I feel like I want to channel, I just channel. I just am a channel. I don't ask for permission for it. I just ask questions. And if I'm in a state of meditation, and I feel clear, it's easier for me to hear these voices. I think it's the same for everyone, because basically what happens is you're becoming like you're transmitting some kind of a signal. So you're basically a transmitter from source to everything around you, everything that you create. And when you're channeling, that's all you're doing. All you're doing is you're communicating with everything that is. So communication is not just about talking to people, other people. Communication is talking like with everything, everyone and everything. And it kind of it does lessen the feeling of loss that comes with death, because you realize that actually nothing ever dies. It's not the body, the outside shell that's been created dies or appears to die. It just kind of disintegrates because it's no longer needed. It's no longer got a purpose, so it's not needed anymore. But the actual consciousness of the person goes on forever. It's really hard for me to say this. I'm not really quite sure why, but I've been in communication with my dad. At least I think I have been in communication with my dad since he died. And how he died is still kind of really fresh in my mind. It's still really raw, and there was a lot of suffering involved. And so this is really hard for me to be accepting of this. But I've kind of, as soon as I start feeling these feelings of you know, that's it, I've lost him, it's all over, I'm never going to see him again. As soon as I start feeling those feelings, and also start thinking about, quite frankly, the horrific way that he died, I kind of start to tune into myself and think about what I am. I connect with all things that are eternal. I connect with Source in my head. I connect with all that is, which is eternal. I connect with my heart center, and I connect with feelings of love for everyone and everything. And it doesn't get rid of the feelings of loss. It doesn't it kind of doesn't make you feel better on one level, the level that view that is still afraid of death, that is still in ego, but it does help me to kind of it's like going over a hurdle. This is what it feels like. It kind of feels like you just for even a few seconds, you kind of transform yourself into a different thing, so that you're able to receive everything instead of only receiving certain levels of feeling and frequencies. Because when you're thinking those thoughts of about that person's death, your mind is like this camera. It's like a focal point. It's focusing on that thing that scares you, and then of course then you create more thoughts in that mode of being, and the fear is perpetuated. And when you're thinking fear thoughts about death, then you're moving further away from all that is. So you're kind of detaching yourself from God, really. So you can kind of get back to center by being in your body and doing some breathing exercises. And every time your mind jumps to that feeling of loss and fear about your own death, the death of another loved one, you know, because we do these things are actually happening all the time, and we just dismiss them. We don't want to think about them because it's so difficult for us thinking in that way. But there is another way to think, and the way that we can think is by thinking loving thoughts. This may sound obvious to some people, but it's not obvious to me, because it's easy for me to just straight away, as soon as I stop feeling depressed, to start thinking thoughts about his death and how he suffered, and and it escalates. So bringing yourself back to a state of peace is to align yourself with all that is, and God is all that is. There is nothing else, and we are one with God. So you can breathe and connect with the light. Anyone can do this. And feel all that is coming into you. He's not trying to take away the feelings that you have, just allowing those feelings to be there. After all, fear is a creation, and we are creating more of it. We're creating stuff all the time we create. But if we can create from our hearts, then we're going to receive more of what we're creating with our hearts. So we're going to get the result of creating with our hearts. And this is what we want, especially when we feel low or down on our energy is low. So you can connect to your heart center, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And immediately I feel a wave of energy pulsing through me, and I become more relaxed, more at peace with what is happening right now. And I remember that that's all there ever is. And then you can say to yourself, I am that I am. I am that I am. I am all that is. Now you may like to breathe in a different way to me, but every time I'm going down the road that I don't want to go down, and my programmed responses are going to stuff that in my head that I don't want to go to, not because I'm in denial. There's a difference between denial and what we're choosing With our conscious ability, with conscious awareness, we can choose to create consciously, and the way that we create is through source. So we want to create through source, and when we connect with source, we can literally be a blank slate if we want to be, and we can create through that, because through that it adjusts and makes the correction that we need to see in the right way. I don't know how it works. It's absolutely magical, and it's the only way I can describe it. I get told off for saying magical because that's not really how God works. God isn't magic. It's not magic. This is a word we've created to describe things that we don't understand how they work. It's kind of like giving it an identity which it doesn't need. Also, what I like to do is I like to think about babies and the innocence of children, and how that can change your thinking in an instant. It's kind of miraculous, really. When I hang around my daughter, even if I feel sad, it changes the energy. It changes my feelings and my thoughts, because I kind of have to be on her level. I have to be on her wavelength, and her wavelength is innocence. Her wavelength is a blank slate. And isn't that why we all look at babies and young children who haven't yet had all the programming, and we love them so much because they're so innocent, and we just love that, but we don't see it in ourselves. And this is another thing that is really good to draw your attention to when you're breathing, is the innocence of everything and everyone, because everyone is innocent. Everyone is a baby inside. This is how I look at people sometimes. When people are annoying me or doing something that I kind of think, oh, what did you drive like that for? That was really reckless. You know, I have this thought pop into my head, and then I see them as a baby. And then how can a baby do anything wrong? How can a baby, which is what everyone is basically, because we learn all the programming from when we were a baby. We learn how to be in this world from when we were a baby. And then this is when people start going wrong, because they have that programming there. So they do step into the dark side of themselves. They do explore that bit, because that's a creation. That's something they've created. Fear and hatred and all these things are kind of stuff that we've created, and we create more and more of it. The more we start going down that road, the more it kind of attracts us to that. But we have the ability to, we are so clever, and we are like babies in the way that we're so innocent and so full of the original blueprint that we were like from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. We still have that there. And this is what God is. This is how I'm trying to see everything now. But it's like reprogramming yourself. So it's not easy. I don't find it easy. I'm not gonna lie about that. That's part of it. Is part of the journey. But I know for me, there is no other option now. I've done everything else. I've probably had many lives, past lives, and I know that nothing else works. I know that nothing else is going to take me home now. Nothing else is going to bring me back to all that I am, which is all that everyone is. Everyone is all connected. We're all part of consciousness.